guys. I am so happy to be back at Faith and Freedom, and I want to thank Ralph Reed, who is a true hero of the Republic, for inviting me back this year. What I love about this is everything is in the name of this conference, right? Faith and freedom. You can have faith without freedom, but you cannot have freedom without faith. And you certainly cannot have American freedom without faith. So I am blessed and honored to be here today, and I want to thank all of you for being here as well, for caring enough about your country and the future of this country to be here today. I want to talk today a little bit about hinge moments. American exceptionalism, American destiny is built on hinge moments. Moments in American history after which everything else is different. July 4th, 1776, April 12th, 1861, December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001. There are other key hinge moments in US history, but these are the main ones. What do they all have in common? What they all have in common is after those hinge moments, we went to war. The American Revolution, the Civil War, World War II, Vietnam, the War on Terror. We are right now in a hinge moment in American history. The difference this time is that this war has been ongoing. This war has been underway for almost a century, and only one side has been fighting it. And it wasn't us. Because we, as normal believers in America and in our God, were busy doing other things. We were busy getting an education, raising families, being active in our communities, starting small businesses. And the enemy within was busy doing something else. The enemy within was busy infiltrating, undermining, and destroying the United States of America. This did not begin under Joe Biden. It did not begin under Barack Obama. This all started nearly a century ago as a KGB operation. We're here to celebrate God as central to America. Communism, Marxism, neo-Marxism, which is what we are fighting right now, and its sister, globalism, are godless philosophies. They remove God, they ban God. Why? Because the state is supposed to be your God. The state is supposed to be everything for you. It is supposed to be your community, your job, your family, and your God. And so while we've been busy doing other things for the last 90 years, the neo-Marxists have been very busy destroying everything we hope and cherish for this country, our very foundational principles. So when I say we are in a hinge moment now, it's been a long time coming, and it is now here because the war has been ongoing against everything that we cherish. What did they do? Well, the neo-Marxists went to work starting in the 1930s, perhaps even a little earlier than that. And they decided that the United States could not be destroyed from without, like an external war, because we had a strong constitution and a strong God-fearing population that would fight for those things. So they came up with a really clever way of destroying it all. And that is by infiltrating from within and then, like termites, eating away at the foundations of this country for decades and decades and decades. And they did it by grabbing control over the main pillars of American society and life. The government. By the way, Senator Joe McCarthy was right. And he was trying to ring the bell in the 1950s about communist infiltration in our government. And the same deep state that is now going after Donald Trump, the same deep state that removed Richard Nixon, the same deep state that went after Ronald Reagan and anybody else who stood up to them, that deep state became very insidious and in the 1950s smeared and attacked Joe McCarthy for speaking the truth about godless communism in very halls of our government. They grabbed control over academia to indoctrinate all of our kids, and they started at the collegiate level, and now it's down to kindergarten, preschool, where they are indoctrinating our children. They grabbed control over the news media so that the propaganda continues to be perpetuated. And they grabbed control over the culture, movies, television, music. Never used to be this way in the 1950s. John Wayne, during World War II, Hollywood was producing patriotic films. No longer. So the communists have been very successful in grabbing control over all of the aspects of American life and culture. They called it the Long March through the institutions. And now they have succeeded because they've been at it for so long. And now, to compound the problem before us, the battle has been joined by other dark and sinister forces, including the Chinese Communist Party, the globalists, and the Islamists. And right now, they are all working together, at least for the moment, they're working together to undermine and destroy the United States of America and, by extension, the West as well. It's also being driven by a philosophy of the 1960s by two radical Columbia University professors called Cloward and Piven. And Cloward and Piven thought the most effective way to destroy America was by overwhelming all of her institutions, overwhelming all of her systems in order to implode it all. What do you think $36 trillion in national debt is? What do you think $2 trillion in annual deficits are? What do you think the no border policy of Joe Biden is, with tens of millions of illegal immigrants flooding the country? What do you think our schools as indoctrination factories are? What do you think the collapse of law and order in our cities and everywhere else is? What do you think the disintegration of the rule of law is? It is all of a piece to overwhelm the systems in order to implode the systems. And as I said, we've got these external forces in the Chinese Communist Party, the globalists, and the Islamists accelerating the decline. And it doesn't help to have a president who's completely compromised in all of this and helping the acceleration of the decline happen. Whenever we, the people in this room, have recognized the threat, we have come together in force and in huge numbers to try to stop it. Richard Nixon called us the great silent majority. And when the enemies within recognized that there were so many of us and that we were starting to recognize our own power and that there are more of us than there are of them, and started feeling our influence and feeling our power, Nixon called us the great silent majority, and the enemies within put a stop to it. They put a stop to it by removing Richard Nixon and dispiriting all of us and dispersing all of us. Well, then fast forward, and the great silent majority becomes the Reagan Revolution, okay? And once again, we come together as a people, and we understand the power that we have and the threat that we are under, and we go and make a change, and guess what? The enemies within have to try to destroy that too. So they tried to undermine Ronald Reagan. They didn't wholly succeed, thank God, but they tried. And then the Reagan Revolution, of course, became the Tea Party movement. And we began to feel our own power again and start to take our country back. And there was huge force and influence in numbers. And so what did the enemies within do? Same thing. Discredit, smear, attack, destroy, disperse us. Because when we are together like this, in a room like this, in a country like this, as a force, they cannot defeat us, and they know it. So they throw everything at us, including at our leaders, to try to stop it. And now, of course, the latest iteration of this is America First. Only this time, we're a lot smarter. This time, we are on to their forces of destruction. We are wiser, we are fiercer, we are more committed than ever because we have 50 years of history of being attacked and discredited and destroyed and dispersed. And this time, we say not this time. This time, we say no. It also helps to have a fearless leader in President Donald J. Trump, who I truly believe has the hand of God on him. There's no other secular, rational explanation for Donald J. Trump except hand of God. And I've told him this. I've told him this. This is one of those hinge moments, but unlike the ones that I just described earlier in American history, this one is going to end a war instead of kicking off a war. This one is going to end this long, brutal, evil, anti-freedom, neo-Marxist, globalist revolution that we have been subjected to for 90 years. It ends here. Everything you see in every direction is part of the revolution, guys. So I want you to be aware of what's happening. So the pro-Hamas protesters in the streets right now are anti-Semitic and despicable, but they are part of a bigger revolution. So go all the way back, the anti-Vietnam War protests, same revolution. Antifa and Black Lives Matter in 2020, same revolution. The pro-Hamas protesters today, same revolution. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. But now the revolutionaries have really met their match in all of us, haven't they? Because we have a counter-revolution going on here, and we do have a fearless leader in Donald Trump, where they have thrown the kitchen sink at this man over 9 years, and they cannot believe that he is still standing. Hand of God. Hand of God. And, you know, in his first term, and there will be a second, because we know who's in charge, in his first term, Donald Trump delivered a booming economy, an enforced border, law and order, and world peace. To those who attack and criticize and oppose Donald Trump, I want to quote Mona Lisa Vito in My Cousin Vinny. So what's your problem? I don't know what people expect or want from an American president beyond those four things. That's why you hire an American president. But they have thrown everything they can to try to stop him because, as he always says, they're trying to stop me because they're trying to stop you. Every single time that we have come together, Great Silent Majority, Reagan Revolution, Tea Party, America First, we're all the same. Just as their revolutionaries are all the same, it's all about the revolution. Well, you know what? So is ours. So is ours. And they're not going to stop us this time. They're not going to stop us. So what do we all do? Because we're in this hinge moment now to stop the war on America. I want to leave you with a couple of action items that we can all do. First of all, recognize that this is a long-term project for all of us. The left has been at this for a very long time, like I said, almost a century. So while it's so important to mobilize our fellow Christians and get out there and vote and be active in this next election, and as great as Donald Trump is, and he is in so many ways the disruptor that we need at the moment, He's only one man, so he's relying on all of us to get him across the finish line, but also to help change the country. And this is a long-term project, so keep that in mind. Second thing is, educate everybody you know about the stakes involved here. Everybody you know. I was at a dinner party the other night, and I was lecturing everybody at the table with this kind of passion and energy about what is at stake, because we got one shot left. This is it. Okay? So I'm saying this at a dinner party, and a friend of mine was at the table, and the next day he says to me, Monica, you may want to, be a little bit more solicitous of other people and ask them how they feel and what they think. And I was like, oh, the country is hanging by a thread. We don't have time for niceties. We don't have time for pleasantries. So I would encourage all of you to blow up your dinner parties also and educate everybody. The other thing, too, is to get involved locally. Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, and it remains true. There is a reason why George Soros has spent tens of millions of dollars on local races, mayors, DAs, etc. There's also a reason why Barack Obama started as a community organizer, because the left knows real change starts at the local level. So get involved in what the philosopher Edmund Burke called our little platoons. Your communities, your churches, your schools, your school boards, locally, that's where the real change happens. And then, of course, activism. I'm getting the hook, but just activism. Volunteer whatever you have at your disposal, whether it's your time as a poll watcher, whether it's your resources to back America First candidates and organizations like this one doing extraordinary grassroots work. Volunteer your expertise. For example, if you're an attorney and there are legal challenges that come up in your district, in your town going into the election, volunteer your services for that. And I will just end on this note. Above all, recognize that this is a spiritual war. Can I get an amen? All right. This is a spiritual battle above everything. So while it is Trump versus Biden, and whether it's right versus left or liberal versus conservative, populist versus whatever, there is something much bigger going on here. Above our pay grade. This is God versus the enemy, good versus evil. However you want to put it, there's something much bigger going on here. And we are spiritual warriors in this battle. And it is up to us to carry our spiritual knowledge and our faith in God forward into this fight. Because if God be with us, who can be against us? In this fight, we are up against real darkness from all of the enemies that I laid out here today. So keep God first place. He is in this battle with us. Keep him central. Keep him central. Because I'll tell you what, God is the ultimate warrior for freedom because he gave it to us. God, through the founders, gave us this beautiful system of liberty, human liberty. And like every generation that came before us, we are not going to let them down. And we've got God walking by our side. Thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless America.